When the paramedics entered that small Palmdale apartment, they thought they were walking into another domestic emergency. But what they saw stopped them cold. A little boy, barely 8 years old, lying on the floor. His ribs were broken, his skull fractured, skin burned and bruised in ways no doctor could explain. "Who did this to you?" a medic whispered. But the boy didn't answer. He couldn't. Because his name was Gabriel Fernandez, and he was dying. Inside that apartment, in the very place he was supposed to feel safe, Gabriel had been beaten, burned, locked away, and tortured. And as police searched the room, they began uncovering details that still haunt investigators today. A small cabinet, lined with duct tape, blood on the walls, BB gun pellets scattered on the floor, and hidden deep in that darkness was the truth about how society failed an 8-year-old boy begging to be saved. This is the story of Gabriel Fernandez, the boy the system forgot. Gabriel Daniel Fernandez was born on February 20th, 2005 in Palmdale, California. He came into a world already cracked and fragile. His mother, Pearl Fernandez, was barely holding her life together, struggling with rage, neglect, and addiction. His father, Arnold Contreras, drifted in and out of jail. But when Gabriel was taken in by relatives, his great-uncle Michael Carranza and his partner David Martinez, something changed. He smiled more. He laughed often. He finally felt safe. They said Gabriel was a bright light, always curious, always hugging people, the kind of child who believed love could fix everything. But in 2012, Pearl wanted her son back. No one knows exactly why. Maybe guilt, maybe control, maybe cruelty. Despite warnings from family members who begged social services not to return him, Pearl regained custody. She moved Gabriel into her apartment with her boyfriend, Isaro Aguirre, a towering 6'2" security guard. Neighbors saw them as quiet, ordinary, but behind the thin apartment walls, the nightmare had begun. May 22nd, 2013. Pearl called 911. Her voice trembled. "My son's not breathing," she said. "He fell. He hit his head." Paramedics arrived minutes later. The lights were still on. The air is thick with panic. And something else. The smell of blood. They found Gabriel naked on the floor, unconscious, cold to the touch. He had bruises on his face, open wounds on his scalp, cigarette burns on his skin. His front teeth were knocked out. And when medics lifted his shirt, they saw what looked like small bullet holes, BB gun wounds, all over his body. They rushed him to Antelope Valley Hospital, then transferred him to Children's Hospital, Los Angeles. Doctors tried everything, but his brain had already begun to swell. He was pronounced brain dead 2 days later, May 24th, 2013, 8 years old. Detectives separated Pearl and Aguirre that same night. Their stories fell apart immediately. Pearl said, "He fell and hit his head." Aguirre said, "He was clumsy." But officers noticed things that didn't add up. There was blood spatter on the walls, BB pellets under the couch, and inside the bedroom, a small wooden cabinet with duct tape and clothes inside. It smelled of rot. There were strands of hair and dried blood. That's where Gabriel had been forced to sleep, for days at a time. Tied up, gagged so neighbors wouldn't hear his screams. His siblings later told investigators what they saw. They said their mother and Isaro beat Gabriel daily. They said they called him gay, made him eat spoiled food, and punished him if he cried. They shot him with a BB gun, forced him to eat cat litter, and when Gabriel tried to stand up for himself, they beat him harder. At school, his teacher Jennifer Garcia began noticing signs: bruises, bald patches, swollen lips. Gabriel once asked her, "Is it normal to be hit with a belt?" Is it normal to be shot with a BB gun? Jennifer reported it again and again to Child Protective Services. So did counselors. So did neighbors. But somehow, the system kept closing his case. 4 social workers were responsible for his file. They documented concerns, but took no emergency action. By the time Gabriel's final report was filed, the section labeled immediate danger was left unchecked. In that unchecked box, an 8-year-old boy was dying. When detectives dug deeper, they uncovered the motive behind the cruelty. Isaro Aguirre believed Gabriel was gay. He told people he wanted to make him tough. But the truth was darker. He enjoyed it. Prosecutors later described Aguirre as a sadist, someone who found pleasure in Gabriel's pain. He would smile when the boy cried. He forced him to wear girls' clothes to humiliate him. And Pearl, his own mother, joined in. They burned him with cigarettes, shot him for fun, laughed as he begged them to stop. When investigators searched the apartment, they found handwritten notes, Pearl and Isaro mocking Gabriel, calling him dirty, worthless, gay. They even took photos of his injuries. This wasn't discipline. This was a slow, methodical torture, a ritual of cruelty that lasted for months. In May 2013, both Pearl Fernandez and Isaro Aguirre were charged with first-degree murder with special circumstances of torture. During trial, Aguirre sat silently, stone-faced. His defense said he snapped. But prosecutors revealed the truth. This wasn't a sudden outburst. It was a pattern, a plan, an obsession with control. Over 7 weeks, jurors listened to horrific testimony from doctors, neighbors, teachers, even Gabriel's classmates. They saw photos that will never leave their minds. One paramedic broke down in tears describing Gabriel's body. A detective said, "In all my years, I've never seen anything like it." In 2018, the jury found Isaro Aguirre guilty of murder and torture. He was sentenced to death. Pearl Fernandez accepted a plea deal, life in prison without parole. During sentencing, Judge George Lamelli looked directly at them and said, "You want to say you loved Gabriel? You took away everything he had, his smile, his future, his breath. But for many, justice didn't feel like enough. Because Gabriel had begged for help, and every adult failed him. The case ignited a firestorm. Outrage spread across California, and then across the world. How did teachers, social workers, and police miss the warning signs? How many chances did they have to save him? The 4 social workers responsible for Gabriel's case were eventually charged with child abuse and falsifying records, a historic move. But in 2020, the charges were dropped. The court ruled that while their failures were tragic, they did not commit crimes under California law. Gabriel Fernandez lived for just 8 short years, but his story and his voice changed the world. He was the little boy who wanted to be a police officer, the boy who made his teacher laugh, the boy who asked, "Is it normal to be beaten?" And no one answered him. Today, people still visit his memorial in Palmdale. They leave teddy bears, flowers, and handwritten notes that say, "We're sorry." His case pushed California to reform child welfare laws, to train social workers better, to protect children faster. But no law will ever erase what he endured. Gabriel's story is more than tragedy. It's a mirror, showing what happens when silence wins, when reports are ignored, when a child's cry becomes background noise. If you ever suspect a child is being abused, call, ask questions, speak up, because one voice can be the difference between life and death. Gabriel never got to grow up, but maybe, through his story, we can make sure no other child is forgotten. Stories like this remind us that evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it sits right across the dinner table. It's the kind of story that makes you question how well you really know the people around you, or how far pain can push a person before they snap. But what do you think? Was justice really served here? Or do you feel there's more to the story that we'll never know? Tell me in the comments. I actually read every single one. If you felt something while watching, if this story kept you thinking, hit that like button so more people can find it too. And if you love deep true crime stories like this, real, shocking, and human, then make sure you subscribe and turn on the bell, because we've got more cases coming that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Oh, and don't keep this one to yourself. Share it with someone who loves true crime or psychology. Let's see what they think about this one. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.